It was 6 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and so far Japan had a string of victories, but they still had a difficult position. Their enemy still had a decent amount of aircraft carriers and they had to be taken out. Their plan was an attack on a position that would lure the American carriers, where they would be destroyed in detail. So they chose Midway. But the Americans had an ace up their sleeve in the form of radio intelligence, and they knew what their opponents were about to do. The Japanese Navy placed their units in multiple fleets, with their strongest being Kido Butai. Its main units were the carriers of the 1st and 2nd Carrier Division. They had a total of just under 250 aircraft. The Americans brought their 3 Yorktown-class carriers with a large air group as well. So on June 4 at dawn, Kido Butai sent off their strike of 108 aircraft and some floatplanes as scouts. Vice Admiral Nagumo, who was under command of the fleet, kept the other half of his aircraft as reserves in case of enemy carriers that were not expected to be in the area this early into the battle. American P. Catalinas spotted Kido Butai, and all Midway's strike aircraft were launched with fighters on the defense. The carrier strike group was intercepted, but they still launched their attack that caused a lot of damage, but lost 23% of their air group, and the strike leader sent a report that said a second strike was needed. Back at the fleet, 4 separate attacks took part, consisting of dive bombers, torpedo bombers and level bombers, none of them scoring a hit. Nagumo decided to use the reserve aircraft on Midway. Between those attacks, a submarine was spotted and was chased off by a destroyer. A scout reported a fleet that contained a carrier, and Nagumo ordered his torpedo bombers to change their payload again. Soon after, VT-8 appeared and the Combat Air Patrol intercepted them, destroying the entire air group. Only one man of the unit survived. Just after that attack, another one began. VT-6 appeared and targeted Kaga, but no torpedoes hit her. These small attacks, even today, are ineffective, delayed the launch of an attack on the Americans. Then at 10 past 10, VT-5 appeared and targeted Hiryu, but no hits were scored. And 15 minutes later, the war in the Pacific changed as 3 squadrons of dive bombers appeared overhead right at the time the Combat Air Patrol was dealing with VT-5. Soryu was attacked and hit by 3 bombs, Kaga got hit at least 4 times, and by pure skill, 1 bomb from Lieutenant Best hit Akagi, and these carriers, with fully fueled aircraft, exploded. Hiryu was the only one that survived this massacre and launched an attack of dive bombers on Yorktown with 7 bombs dropped and 3 hitting the American ship. Tenkate's attack some time later, hitting her twice in Yorktown, was abandoned. The Americans answered with a strike on Hiryu, and at 5 p.m. Hiryu was hit by 4 bombs. All of the Kido Butai carriers were scuttled. This battle changed the tide in the Pacific.